Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Time with Byron. I am your host, Byron. Alongside me is former MLB pitcher trying to get back into the league, current, I guess, Mexican leaguer right now, correct?
Yeah,
David,
correct.
welcome to the show. My first time back in over a year. It's good to be back. So tell us, how are things going with you? I wish things could be going better for me. I just recently lost a loved one, but it's getting better day by day as the process heals. It's better. But I do thank you for your time and tell us, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well, man. I'm sorry to hear about your loss, but doing well down here, down in Mexico, and just kind of here by myself. Wishing my family was down here with me, but
hmm
it is. But it's just trying to manage the time and keep it going.
So I do got. Let's start there with the Mexican League. I know, obviously, like I asked you, and it's fine. You don't know. I know MLB is trying to expand globally, which they have. So these teams, according to, I'm just going by with what the show, because I play MLB the show. I don't know if you do either, but there's uniforms that they have now just introduced recently to the game that's in the Mexican leagues, which is what you're a part of.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's an affiliation thing or what, but yeah, like you said, who's down there? I mean, you said there's a who's who of names that have been in the league. So who's down there playing with you?
Well, I mean, just a couple of names. I think Trevor Bauer's down here, Robinson Cano. Like, there's some big time names down here that are have major league experience that are just playing to kind of bring, I think, just awareness to this league. I mean, they went from 7 imports to 20 just in this past season, and everybody's basically, I mean, they're all imports that are playing that are looking for jobs that are looking to sign back in the states. For myself, I'm a little older. I don't think anybody in the states is going to want someone of my age, but
hmm
I'm down here just finishing up my career and seeing if I can pitch until I'm 40, and that's my main goal. So
Now, which do you, since you obviously pitched in majors and the minors, do you find, and also I saw Korean too. Which league do you find the most difficult that you pitched in, or do you see them as all the same?
obviously the big leagues is top notch. That's where all the talent is. Everybody's trying to get from international leagues. Everybody's trying to get over to the big leagues, and from I'd say on a comparison level, it's one of those things where um, you know there are similarities between Korean leagues, Japanese leagues here
Mhm,
now.
mhm.
Um, Talent wise, there is some comparables there, but obviously nothing really compares to what's in the big leagues. But it's everybody's trying to get exposure and awareness to get back there, basically.
So have you had a chance to strike out Robinson Cano yet?
Unfortunately, we haven't faced them yet this year.
God, I remember him growing up, watching it. He was like, I think he debuted, I can't remember. I want to say in when I was in middle school he debuted, and now look at him still trying to play and be in the big leagues. He was, I think, with my Padres there for a bit last year, and then they cut him, and then never heard from him ever since. So now I know where he's at. I hope he does well for himself.
Yeah, he's killing it right now. His average is I think over 300, and he's hitting homers pretty much every other 2 games, and he's doing pretty well. Still got that sweet swing.
Now, did you ever have it? Obviously, since you were in the big leagues, did you pitch at Mile High? So you know about that, right? Did
Yep,
so I know some points of Mexico is that way as well. How
actually
do you
higher.
yeah, how do you adjust to that? I mean, it's gotta be different. It's gotta be difficult to throw a pitch and not expect to get a hit out of the ballpark. Do they have humidor balls just like in what they use for Coolers Field?
Maybe I doubt it though. Down here they're all about offense and home runs, and so like a lot of the fields are smaller and the ball
Mhm.
flies. It's just kind of one of those things. You just kind of make the adjustments and hope it doesn't get barreled up and hit too far. So you got to try and really make your ball move last minute and miss, just miss those barrels.
Now, you were a switch hitter, correct? According to this, what I'm seeing. Do you miss that part of the game of of not being able to hit? Do you miss that part of the game?
I do. I love to hit. It's obviously a lot harder than pitching. Um, yeah, I do miss it. I mean, I played two positions up until college, basically, like my sophomore year of college,
Mhm.
and it was just one of those things, and I you just got to accept it. It's like you're doing so well pitching. It's like you're gonna be a pitcher. So I just kind of put that back on the shelf, and eventually, when I got into the National League, I got to hit again, and I do have an average. So yeah, I do have a couple of hits.
Which
Uh,
not much pitchers could say.
which no, exactly. But no, it's fun. It's fun. You get in that national. I mean, obviously not now because everybody's in the universal DH, but
Right.
uh, it was nice to get into the National League and swing the bat again, and then obviously get over to Japan and swing. I was in the division or the conference or whatever you call it. That was their National League as well.
Mhm. Now down there, is it the same format rules as up here where they implemented this, I think, pandemic year, where extras to fasten up the game, they have the runner on second. Do you I gotta ask you, do you think that quickens the game? Do you like how that is as a pitcher? I know they wanted to share I wanted to lower the length of games. What is your take on that? Do you like how MLB does that, and has the Mexican leagues adopted that format yet?
I don't know. We haven't had too many extra inning games. I think down here we go two regular extra inning games, so no runners on. You just play the innings out, and then
Mhm.
after that, you start putting a runner on second. We haven't gotten that far yet, but it's there's pros and cons to it. Like it speeds the game up. Yes, it's for a pitcher to come in and instead of having a clean inning, and I wouldn't say be relaxed, but like a little more relaxed than a runner on in scoring position with no outs.
Mhm.
Um, it's a little more intense on the pitchers, so it's harder for them. But in other sense, it speeds the game up. I mean, you don't want to kill your bullpen in one night if you end up
Right.
going 14, 15, 16 innings where you don't have a long guy. Say he pitched the day before, and now all your guys are just getting taxed, and they got to figure it out the next day. So in that sense, I like it. In the sense where you got to come in with runners on with nobody out it's a little more nerve wracking than
Mm.
usual. But other than that, I mean, it's probably better for the game.
How would you handle it in that situation if you played in today's game, like with those rules?
You just got to adjust. I mean, you, you can't complain about it. You can't do anything about it. You can't control what's going on there. You just got to go out there and do what you can and control how you execute pitches and get people out, and that's all you can do.
I couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't have said it better. I'm hoping they don't adopt to that rule. I'm hoping, yeah, you'll still at least get, I'm hoping, because honestly, I don't like it, but like you said, it is what it is. I know they wanted to speed up the game. It is what it is. The rules. I mean, but hey, that's MLB for you. They're trying to hint to the occasional fan. Um, Now I gotta ask you your relationship with Rothschild. Do you still have a relationship with him? Because I saw, according to your stats and all that, there was a time where you only wanted to play for him as a pitching coach. Do you still have a relationship with him? How's that
Yeah,
relationship with him?
yeah, it's a good relationship. It's a professional relationship, and he taught me a lot when I was with the Yankees, and probably saved my career because I was having trouble locating my fastball, and it was just kind of I didn't know how it was going to go. It was either going to sink or it was going to cut, or it was going to go dead straight, and I couldn't get a control over it, and
Mm.
so after finally throwing in front of him and having him kind of diagnose what I do, he made an adjustment for me. He's like, hey, just you're kind of forcing a high 3/4 arm slot. Like, why don't you just get back to that natural arm slot that that you're good at, like where you're fielding a ground ball and throwing it to a base. And he said, just get to that arm slot. And he goes, that's your natural arm slot. And once I did that, everything was dotted up. Everything was down in the zone that I needed. It was going exactly where I needed it to go. So when I made that adjustment, I got DFA'd like literally the next day. So I was like, no. I'm like, I just finally like figured something out. And so when they told me I cleared waivers, I was like, yeah, I'm happy to accept my assignment because I want to stay here with the organization and eventually get back up there with Larry and work some more things out.
Well, that's good. I'm glad because he's one hell of a pitching coach. I don't know what he's doing nowadays, if he's retired or what. But yeah, he was definitely a key component in all those Yankees World Series teams growing up, and it was one hell not only just a pitching coach, but he was one hell of a manager too. I believe he was the Rays' first manager that we had when we first were in existence. I believe he was the first manager. So obviously it didn't pan out the way he wanted to, but hey, I mean, when you have an expansion team, I mean, can't expect to go well. So
yeah, exactly.
But I'm glad you have that relationship with him, and it's awesome to see that he saved your career because you honestly did not know where you were going with your pitching. So
yeah, exactly. So it helped me out. Now I have. I mean, I always kind of. It's weird because I've done it so long from that high 3/4 arm slot that I have to almost check myself every season and make sure that I am getting back down to that natural 3/4.
And here, a lot of people say, why do professional players need coaches? Why do they need coaches? They're just a waste of money. No, they're not. They're there to help you guys.
Yeah.
Like they are for little leaguers and high schoolers and college. That's why I hate when people say, oh, they're big leaguers. They can handle it themselves. You know what I mean? They're just like us when we're growing up to play little league or high school or college. They need coaches to help them. They need help too when they're struggling.
Yeah. Well, it's another pair of eyes. I mean, most of the time when guys are making small adjustments, you don't really feel those small adjustments. Like you want to have like for someone else outside looking in and sees you, struggling. They're like, okay, what is he doing? Well, okay, your old video used to look like this, and now you look like this. It's like you're not really the same guy. So for a lot of guys, they don't feel that.
Yeah.
That minor adjustment that they made for, that's screwing them all up. And they just think they're throwing just the way that they've always been. And so for someone to get eyes on and tell them like, hey, like you're no longer here, you're up here now. And that's why everything's not moving the way that you want it to. And then all of a sudden, okay, make the adjustments back to your normal state. And then boom, you're there, you're back at it.
Now, since you've been last up in the majors, did you add any more pitches to your repertoire? Is it the same repertoire? What do you throw? And what's your velocity that you top out at?
Since the last time I was in the big leagues, I was fastball, cutter, changeup, and now I used to have a slider and a curveball. Those didn't really do too well as I got older. I couldn't really have the same effectiveness as I did when I was younger. I don't know why. I just put it on the shelf and left it there. And so I ended up getting a cutter, and I still got the changeup. And then now I'm I wouldn't say experimenting, using a sweeper, which is like the new pitch that everybody's throwing nowadays. But yeah, I mean, I've made adjustments on my changeup. I still got that. I mean, instead of throwing it with my two middle fingers, I now throw it with my ring and my pinky finger. I still throw the cutter, and I still spot up the fastball, and I'm now throwing a sweeper, and I'm right around low 90s, like 90, 91. So I mean, velo's kind of gradually going down the older I get, but it's not like a drastic change.
Did you ever feel like you had to adjust your since you are getting older, like most pitchers that get older, like Verlander, Scherzer, and all that? Do you feel you had to like adjust to location more than speed, rely on that to than what you had to in your younger days?
Well, I've always been a locating, like a control pitcher. I've never been a guy that blows doors off of anybody.
Okay.
Like I threw low 90s, but like back in that day, it was considered like 95 and higher. You were a flamethrower, and then like
Mhm.
anything lower than that, you were just like, okay, he has a plus, above average fastball. That was about it. But for me, because those hitters were so good, like I couldn't rely on just throwing it right down the middle.
Right.
I had to locate it to the corners and pitch to a triangle and everything. So, I mean, I had to basically hone in that craft.
Yeah. So like you said, yeah. Yeah, I kind of remember that because I remember when we were in game. Yeah, okay, yeah, you were always that. Yeah, I don't know why I asked. That's stupid me. I should have remembered that. Yeah, I remember you in games. Yeah, you were always that pinpoint guy that could. Yeah, okay, I remember that now that you said it. I'm sorry.
You're okay. It's all good.
um, so you obviously play for different organizations. Um, is there one specific organization? I know obviously Rothschild with the Yankees
Yeah.
in them, but was there out of all the other organizations you were a part of, is there one that you take in the most that you really enjoyed and enjoyed the teammates the most out of besides the Yankees?
You know, I enjoyed my time wherever I was.
Mhm.
I always kept it super positive. I always wanted to go more for like the life experience than it would be just, dreading, the games and whatnot.
Right.
Uh, I'm very grateful for Cleveland giving me my opportunity to even pursue Major League Baseball because I mean I was with them for 7 years
Right.
and it was incredible there. I mean, it was they were a family to me. They welcomed me in, as a young kid out of college, and grew me into the somewhat of a man that I am now. And then as I got older, like playing for the Giants, playing for the Yankees, playing for the Dodgers, like all those teams, like I just kind of took everything in as best as possible as far as like as a positive experience. And yeah, I mean, things didn't go my way where I wish I could have played, in the big leagues longer. But for the time that I was there, I really appreciated the opportunity, and I was grateful for all the memories that I had going through it.
Now, according to this, you can tell me if I'm wrong. According to this, you were part of the 2015 Toronto team representing Team USA in the Pan Am Games. Can you
Yeah.
tell us about that and how was that experience?
It was a really good experience. It was my first time ever playing for any kind of Olympic U.S. team. I really enjoyed it. My wife and my son were able to come and experience it with me. We ended up taking silver, which kind of sucks, but
Mhm.
I think we could have taken gold if things went our way. But it is what it is. Overall experience was pretty incredible. The ceremonies were unbelievable. Playing against different countries and seeing what kind of athletes they had in their country representing them, was really cool. Seeing all that, but just getting to see all the guys. I played with Casey Kochman. I played with like a bunch of guys, and a lot of guys nowadays, they're all in the big leagues. So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, right.
it's great seeing all those guys having the success that they're having, and playing the game. That yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
Do you remember who you faced for gold medal that you unfortunately lost to?
Canada.
Oh, oh, I should have known it was them. It was either them. I was going to say either them or Japan. It's one of those two.
Oh no, it was the Pan Am game. So it was just North America, South America, and I think Central were
Uh,
or I don't know if Central was in it. I think it was just North America, South America.
okay, so it really wasn't like other. Okay, I gotcha.
It
I
wasn't
always,
like a full. It wasn't like a full Olympics. It was the Pan America Olympics.
I always get confused with those because there's so many out there. I always
Yeah.
get
Oh yeah.
confused. Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. Okay. Darn, yeah, darn it, Canadians. You should have taken U.S. goal. Oh well, it's all right. It just wasn't your night that night. So I
Well,
gotta ask you. I know you're up to date with what's going on, and I'm sure you are with some of the topics here. Um, I'm sure you have heard, and I'm sure everybody else has heard. This has made national news. What do you take? What's your take, if any at all, with the MLB's golden child? Do you think he had something to do with this gambling thing, like Pete Rose?
oh, I was like, who are you talking about?
No, you're good.
You're talking about Shohei.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know. I don't have enough information on it. I haven't been reading much about it. It's kind of one of those things. It's like I kind of just want to let the facts play out and just see where it ends up because they're obviously investigating the whole situation. I don't want to draw any conclusions too early.
Hmm.
Uh, I hope he's not involved because he is obviously like he's the new age Babe Ruth. Like
He
he's
is literally.
yeah, and so I hope it doesn't come out to where he's got any kind of involvement in it. From what I've been reading, it doesn't sound like it. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't really want to draw any conclusions this early in the get go.
Now take us through. Now take us through the your draft process. Were you drafted? Do you know where you were going to be drafted if you got drafted? And how did that whole process come about?
It was 2006. I was coming out of UCLA, and I was projected to go. I think it was. I can't remember what number pick it was. I think it was like 15th or 20th, and it was to the Yankees. They
Mhm.
had all projected for that, and so I kind of paid really close attention when that slot came up. And the Yankees ended up going with I think Ian Kennedy. And so then I was just like, okay, well, wherever I go, it doesn't matter. Like, let's see what happens. And it came down to the, I think, first supplemental pick, 31st pick overall, and it was to the Cleveland Indians. And I was like, great, let's do this. I was excited. I mean, it was just such an honor to just even be considered in the draft, and then
Right.
to pick that high, I was just like, this is amazing. This is a dream come true. So for me, it was just, where do I sign? When do you need me there? Like, just tell me, give me my flight information, I'll be there. Like,
Right, yeah. I don't blame you. Yeah,
yeah,
I would feel the same way too. Just being drafted would be awesome. I mean, that's any player's dream. Rule
yeah,
5 or anything. I agree with you on that. I wouldn't care where. I would just be happy to be drafted.
100%, 100%.
Even if it was what? How many rounds do they have now? Like 6 or 7, 5?
Yeah,
I don't know, somewhere around there. Yeah,
it's like
I don't care.
hardly anything now.
Heck,
They used to have 50.
yeah. Heck, even if I went undrafted, I'd be happy just as long as it'd be on a team.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Now, take us through your first start. Do you remember who it was against? Because I'm seeing
Tampa.
this. Yep. Do you remember how it went? Unfortunately.
It didn't go as well as I thought, as well as I wanted it to. I do remember it. I do. The one thing that really stuck out to me in my mind was how I couldn't feel my legs at
Mhm.
all. The whole butterflies. Like, I've had it. I've pitched in it. It's whatever. You get over it. You keep going.
Mhm.
But for some reason, my first major league start, I couldn't shake it, and
Mhm.
it was just a whole lot of excitement. A whole lot of nerves, anxiousness, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I stand up. I stand on the mound, and I find out that Madden he had Ben Zobrist and Evan Longoria slotted at third base.
Oh, jeez.
So I think he took Longoria out of the lineup, and then Andy Sonnenstein had to hit for himself, the pitcher.
I remember that. Yep. I remember.
And I'm sitting there going like, all right, this is weird. And so then, facing all the guys and getting through all the whole lineup, and I finally get to the pitcher, and I'm like, oh, I got this guy. I'm like, oh, let's just groove some fastballs and we'll be all right. Little did I know, apparently, before he was drafted, he was like a two-way guy.
Uh huh.
and he could swing it, and I didn't know that. So I was like, just 1, 2, 3, get rid of him, and let's move on to the next hitter.
Right.
Well, thinking that was probably the worst mistake I made all night, and he hit a double over our left fielder's head, and I was just like, this is ridiculous. So I was
I
like,
actually do remember that. Yeah, that was, I know. Out of all the crazy moves Madden did, was like, I was like, why? Why are you putting a pitcher in? Like,
yeah,
I mean, I understand that the game was probably out of hand at the time, but why are you putting a pitcher in to hit?
yeah, it was bad. I mean, it did, like I said, it didn't go the way I wanted it to. And then my next start, I kind of settled in and started kind of working it better.
Yeah, tell us about that. You got your first win against the White Sox. Do you remember
Yeah.
who? Do you remember who? Do you remember who? You went up against? Who was the opposing pitcher?
Oh gosh, I don't remember. God, I couldn't. No, I mean, it was the lefty. It was gosh, what's his name? No, it was not. It was what was it, Gavin Floyd?
Yeah. Yep. It was.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
shoved, and somehow we got to him, and yeah, it was yeah. It's one of those games. I always one guy that always sticks out to me is Paul Konerko. And
Yep. Yep.
he's one guy that I always face. And being in the AL Central, we faced him a lot. And
Yep.
he would strike out, like look stupid on changeups and everything, and punch out, swing in. His next at bat, he'd come up and he'd absolutely hammer a ball, but he'd be out.
Yep.
And then the third at bat, I'm like, okay, I got him. And I try and go fastball in, and sure enough, he's waiting for it. But boom, homer every single time. And I just like, as a rookie, I'm sitting there going like, why does this always happen? And so finally, the year that he retired, I faced in the last game of the season. It was the last series, last game.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, same exact thing. Strikeout, first at bat, hard line drive out to like the outfielder somewhere that caught at the warning track. Third at bat, homer, and it's just like I finally saw him in the tunnel after the game. I said, Paul, I'm like, dude, I gotta know, man. I know you're retiring, and congratulations, like, but I gotta know what's going on, man, because I keep making the same mistake, thinking that you're looking away, and I beat you away. That there's got to be a chance that I can show you something in and then go back away. And every time I try and go in, you don't miss. Like you just don't miss it. And so I asked him. I said, like, what's the deal? I'm like, I need some help. Like, you're done. You're retired. I need help. I'm still playing. And so he was actually really nice and actually helped me out. And he was just like, yeah. He goes, I missed your changeup. And then what I try and do is I try and do my best to lay off of it by eliminating it because I know I can't hit it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh. He goes, but the moment you throw me that fastball inside, he goes, I'm not going to miss it. And I was like, that totally makes sense because it happened every single time I faced him. I kid you not. It was either a double off the wall that scored some RBIs, or it was a homer like 15, 20 rows deep.
That sounds like his career, honestly.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And so to hear that, I was like, okay, that makes total sense now.
Do you see him? Do you see him, since you know him personally? Do you see him as a Hall of Famer? I mean, you've seen his stats. You played against him numerous times. Do you see him as a Hall of Famer?
I don't know. It's hard because now the guys that are going into the Hall of Fame are like, they're all really, really good. And it's kind of just the class that you're coming in with. If there's too many guys, it's like it's going to be really hard for you to get elected. So you're going up against now, like, I think, I'm trying to think. Jeter just got in, right? So
yeah, Jeter just got in. Yeah, I think it was last year. I think.
Yeah, I mean, those are the guys that are. I think Konerko's time is probably up, maybe, as far as everything goes. I think he had his shot, but I don't know. But yeah, it's tough. The class that he's coming in with, it's really hard because everybody's
Now
really.
I'm seeing this, and I gotta unfortunately ask you about it because unfortunately I remember when this happened. Um, 2010, you were struck in the head with a line drive.
Yep.
Um, did you feel like maybe your career was over after that? Do you think you bounced back? Take us through that and how much of a bad I mean, I know that's gotta be a bad experience, but how bad did you think your career was in jeopardy after that?
Well, I didn't know. I got hit. I was perfectly coherent the whole entire time. It really hurt, obviously. But the good thing was it wasn't like what you're seeing nowadays where guys like get hit and then the ball drops or it gets
Mhm,
hit and goes shooting back towards home plate.
mhm,
Um, Thankfully, mine hit me in the side of the head and just kind of shot towards right field.
mhm,
So it was almost like a glancing blow. Um, I mean, it still hurt, but thankfully it didn't cause any damage. I wasn't concussed. I didn't black out. I didn't pass out. Nothing like that. Um, I've always been told just growing up, like if you ever have a neck or a head injury, like lay still. You don't want to cause any uh, residual issues just from moving around or anything like that. So that was probably why people thought I was knocked out or dead or something.
mhm,
Uh, but yeah, it was one of those things. Just my family was there for the series against New York, and they were in the front row, and they saw me obviously get hit, and then I wasn't moving. Um, but I was just trying to tell in the huddle when the trainers came out. I was like, "Tell my family I'm okay. I'm fine. Like,
mhm.
please, like all
Yeah,
this other stuff." And obviously I got carted off the field and tried to. They were already down in the tunnel and heading towards the ambulance, and that's where I was going to meet them. And I was just trying to give them the thumbs up to let them know I was okay. And yeah, I mean it was a scary moment. I mean, I ended up in the hospital. Everybody was monitoring me, making sure that I was okay, and I
right,
didn't do anything post stress, whatever you call it.
right.
And then yeah, I ended up making my next start, and yeah, it was a little nerve wracking because I got a ball hit right back at me, and I fielded it like and ran it over to first base and did that whole thing. But yeah, it's definitely it weighs on my mind sometimes. Where like when you see a guy that's known to making contact back up the middle, you don't really try to avoid it because it's just like you can't do your job, but
Right, right.
um, it does definitely rest in the back of your head a little bit sometimes.
Now, do you remember who hit that line drive?
I
And
do.
did he ever say anything to you after that, or did he come up to you after ever to say I
Uh,
hope you were all right, or
he sent me a signed bat. I didn't really get the opportunity to. We were always in different places at different
yeah,
times.
yeah,
So I didn't get the opportunity to really like talk to him about it. It wasn't until I got to the Yankees that I actually like talked to him about it. So then we kind of, you know, hashed it out and whatnot. But the thing that really got me is, New York fans get a bad rep for being like, you know, negative towards the visiting team, kind
yeah,
of, very harsh, different things like that, whatever.
yeah,
Uh, but the thing that really kind of hit me at home was when I got to the stadium the next day, and there was a bunch of Yankee fans saying, "Hey Huff, like, hey, I was at church last night. I lit a candle for you. I hope you're doing better. Like all this stuff." And it really just like kind of gut wrenched me a little bit to where I was like, "Oh my god, like these people really do care about." Even though they say the things that they say, it's like they're just passionate about baseball, but they really do truly care about people.
right.
And they're not a-holes or whatever you want to call them, or so it's like it was really nice to see them say like, "Hey man, hope you're feeling good." I was at church, lit a candle. I was like, "Thank you, like that's very thoughtful. I really appreciate your thoughts and your prayers, and thank you for that." And everybody's been super nice. And then when I got traded, like not traded but picked up off of waivers and went there, like people were coming up to me like, "Hey, you're that kid that got hit in the head, and glad to see you're in the pinstripes now and all that stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, thank you." Like it was actually really cool.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I may not like those fan bases. I may think they're cocky and arrogant, but hey, that's what teams fans honestly aren't, to be honest.
Yeah,
I can say that about the Rays fans, the Padres fans. I
yeah,
mean, so I mean, heck, I'm that way, so I could say the same thing. I When they're winning or losing, I could be as crazy as can be to anybody, you know. So I mean, I feel how the fans work. I mean, just like how you guys feel on an everyday basis. You
absolutely.
It's just how fans work. That's why they call it fandom.
Exactly.
So you finished with the career record with the Indians of 18-26 with a 5.40 ERA. Then you, like you said, go on to the Yankees after that. Um, is there any specific game or remembrance of the Indians before we go on to the Yankees that with Rothschild and all that? Is there any game particularly that you remember besides your first game with the Indians?
With the Indians, I remember my first complete game that I threw against Texas. That was a big one for me because I've never thrown a complete game. Um, well, in the minor leagues, and then also I always fell short in the minor leagues. Like it was always like 8 2/3 or
Right.
like 8 1/3 or just eight. This was the first time that I actually had my pitch count was actually efficient, and I was going into the ninth inning with like I think 80, 90 pitches.
Mhm.
So went into that last inning, and I think I went 3 up, 3 down, and it finished off with a line drive off of Vladimir Guerrero on a curveball that he hammered right at our second baseman. I mean, almost took his glove off. And yeah, Gredzalonic caught it, and that was the game. And ended up getting hugged by Mike Redman, who was the catcher at the time, and it
I
was
remember him.
amazing,
I remember him.
amazing. Like just an incredible feeling, and that's probably one thing that really stuck out to me.
God, that's got to be amazing. You faced off against Vlad Guerrero's father, and now you could say if a team does pick you up, you could have a chance to face off against his son. How crazy would that be?
That means I'm getting old.
I know, right? And I'm not even playing, and God, I feel old because I see most of these kids playing now, especially on the Blue Jays, where they have god loads of kids who were fathers in the MLB, like god
Yeah.
loads of them, and now they're playing
Oh,
on the
tell me
main
about
roster.
it.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, I was playing in the Australian Winter Ball League 2 years ago, and I was playing with kids that were closer in age to my son than they were to me. Like it's crazy. Like I just don't.
I know it's hard to believe. It's crazy how time flies.
Yeah.
um, so like you said, you were claimed off waivers from the Indians by the Yankees, where you revitalized your career through Larry Rothschild. Um, is there a certain game or games that that you go back on that you remember the most that you had in your tenure with the Yankees?
I think it would be more probably just the big ones would be Andy Pettit retirement, Mariano Rivera retirement, Jeter's retirement. That was in obviously the next season, but in 13 it was Pettit ended up throwing a CG in Houston
Mhm,
in his home state,
mhm.
which was incredible. So he does that. That was amazing. And then Mariano retires. That was incredible. And then the following season, yeah, with Jeter retiring, that was insane. I mean, just to be a part of it on the same field as those guys. I mean, just watching how they work and how they go about their business. Just as like a young kid, I mean, I was probably like 27, 28, I think,
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
yeah,
Watching how they went about their business was just an incredible sight. I mean, they were true professionals, and they put all the work in the right places and to go out there and compete at the highest level they can compete. And there's one thing that I noticed is like when you're younger, it's like you go in, you put in the time in the gym, you get after it. But as you get older, your body can't really hold that I wouldn't say strength, but it can't hold that regimen as well as it used to. So you see these guys doing different things to kind of keep their body limber and firing and like twitchy. So it's really impressive to watch these guys just go about their business in a different way and how they made the adjustments over their entire career.
I do remember that retirement, and yeah, all three of them. It was like it was off. It was an awesome scene to just watch them three together. I mean, that was pretty much the core growing up with Posada. That
Yeah,
was the core. I
yeah,
mean,
it was insane.
it was insane. Yeah. Um, After your first tenure with the Yankees, then they call you back up again. You make the 25-man roster. You get
Mhm.
your first win with them against the Blue Jays. Tell us about that start. You went 5 innings, one hit ball against them. Tell us about that start.
That might have been. You know what? That was a. I didn't start that game. I was piggybacking Hughes, Phil Hughes, because he was having some trouble. He would either go and give you like 7 strong, or
Mhm.
he would give you like 2 or 3.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
they
yeah,
had me always going kind of after him, and I would throw like my 3 or 4 innings as a not as a starter, but like as a long guy. And
right. Long reliever, yeah.
yeah, and he ended up going, I think, like 2 innings, like 2 and 2/3 or 2 innings, something like that. And I ended up throwing 5 innings and ended up getting the win because, yeah, I don't know, I probably blacked out. I didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of was feeling really good that day and making my pitches and made it work and had a lot of success that day.
And then obviously, I see after the first stint with the Yankees, you go to San Francisco. You obviously
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a long tenure there, unfortunately. Tell us
Yeah,
about experience in San Fran. Did you enjoy your time there, whatever time you did have there?
I loved it there. I absolutely loved it there. I got to reunite with an old teammate of mine from UCLA, Brandon Crawford. So that was really cool. Um, the team chemistry in the clubhouse was unlike anything I've ever seen.
Mhm.
We may not have been the best team on paper, but we were definitely the best team, like chemistry wise. Um, yeah, I ended up signing with them over the off season uh, because the Yankees loved me. Like they liked what I did. They wanted to keep me, but they couldn't
Right.
because
Yeah, they couldn't.
they
Yeah.
I mean, it got to a point where, I mean, I'm making major league minimum. I'm making nothing compared to these other guys that are on the Yankees. And they got rid of a guy like Vernon Wells, who's making like 8 to 12 million over a small little minuscule guy like me that making nothing. So that showed me that they really liked what I did and they really wanted me. But then it got to a point where they were trying to sign Masahiro Tanaka, and I ended up getting DFA'd and picked up by the Giants. That being said, going into spring training, it was, I didn't know what to expect. So I come in, I got a locker, like kind of by Cameron Lowe, and then Suzak, the catcher, um, and we were just kind of like looking around. I knew Brandon really well, and then obviously you meet Hunter Pence. Hunter Pence is, I swear, if he wasn't playing baseball for as long as he did and doing that whole thing, he would have been a motivational speaker. Like
No, I agree.
just high energy, positivity all the time, and
Yep.
was absolutely incredible. So I mean, for him to be basically he was kind of the captain. I mean, for him to do that, I mean, he was.
You could just tell through his interviews that he would have
Oh
been
yeah, yeah, 100%. So I ended up making the team out of camp. Had a great spring. Uh, Ended up starting out pitching well. Scuffled a little bit about 2 months into it, and I had like a rough outing against the Marlins. I had a rough outing against the Cubs, and then we went to Cincinnati, and I turned it around. But at the time, George Contos got called up, and he's like their guy. And
Yep.
then
Yep.
right after, so he had a really good outing, and then they called me into the office and they're like, hey, Matt Cain's coming off the DL. You're unfortunately the guy that's drew the short end of the stick or whatever, and so you're the guy to go. And they're like, we love everything that you did. We love that you were turning it around. We're just sorry that we can't keep you longer to see you do what you do. And I was like, yeah, I appreciate my time. They were completely transparent. Bochy was awesome. Bobby Evans was unbelievable as a GM. Just incredible people in that organization. And then I think like 2 days later, boom, got picked right back up by the Yankees, and I'm heading back to New York. So
Yeah, I
it,
saw that. Yeah, the second stint with them. How
yeah,
speaking of, how did that second stint go? Did
really good, really good. I mean, I my ERA I think for the year with the Giants was like a 5 or 6,
six?
and then
Yeah, it was a 6 CRA. Yeah.
and then I got to the Yankees and it was like a 1.8, something like that. I ended up pitching really well that year, and I was like, cool. I finished the season out in the big leagues. I was like, okay, I'm eligible for arbitration. I'm like, here we go. This is where we start making money, and then just come time. I think it was like December 2nd, December 4th, somewhere around there, where the tender deadline is. They didn't offer me a contract, and it was just like, all right, well, you got to go somewhere else. We're just not going to give you a contract. And I was like, all right, it's fine. I appreciate the opportunity, as like always, and
Yeah.
let's move on to the next phase. So ended up with the Dodgers in 15. Pitched well. Um, Struggled at the big leagues, but pitched well in the minor leagues. And yeah, it just didn't work out with them at all. So which kind of was it was kind of it was heartbreaking because they are kind of 45 minutes from my home.
Right.
It would have been pretty ideal being there if I could have done that, but I guess it is what it is. But oh well, I mean, nothing you can do about it.
So now I gotta ask you. Yeah, like you said, you were unfortunately through arbitration. A lot of other players go through that, like Josh Hader, just a name. Brandon Woodruff, I think, was another one. Oh, go figure, Milwaukee players. Take us through that process. How tough of a process is that? And honestly, as a player, do you honestly like going through that whole arbitration thing? What take us through that whole process? Because I'm really confused on it. I know you got to go through like a lawyer and all that, or whatever, attorney for that. What is that whole Indeed process? And do you guys like that honestly as players?
It's it's. I'll try and sum it up for you. It's a process it brings out a lot of positives and it brings out a lot of negatives. Um, they basically you go into a room, you plead your case on why you're a good player and why you're a good fit and why you should be paid this much money.
Mhm.
Then they go to them and they go to them, and it gets to a point where um, they tell you why they shouldn't pay you
Mhm.
and why you're not good enough to get paid what you're asking for and different things like that. So it's a lot of like headbutting, and then when you get to that point, then it's like, all right, we agreed on this. All right, now go get them. And it's like, you just told me how much I'm not that good, and now you want me to go and compete for you. So it's like
Right.
it's really weird. It's a weird process. You kind of want to keep it as clean as possible because you just don't want to create that animosity between the two parties. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've never experienced it, unfortunately. I've just only gone into like what my agent has told me and what other players have told me. They're like, yeah, dude, it completely sucks. Like, but it's great because it's like you're negotiating for yourself to get more money, but it just sucks because they just berate you with stats and why you're not good enough.
I couldn't go through that, but I feel you. I feel you on the process. Like you said, it's either a hit and miss. You either get it or you don't. I mean, it just
Yeah,
sucks because I know honestly it still sucks as a player because I know you want your money, you know your worth, but I mean, but and again, I know you guys know it's a business, and obviously, business somewhat, they gotta do what they gotta do on their end. It just sucks for you guys
Yeah.
players because you guys know what you're worth and you guys know what you can be worth, you know. But it is
Yeah.
what it is, right?
Yeah.
So now I gotta ask you, since we did a couple of your teams that you've been with, I gotta ask you about the couple of teams that you were overseas with. Um, in the KBO, tell us about those teams. What was it like with those experiences over there? Did you have to learn their language? Did you have a translator? How did that whole process go, and did you enjoy it?
Oh, I absolutely enjoyed it. It was another like what we talk about, life experience. To get over there into a country where you don't speak the language, play baseball, which is kind of the universal language around the world. But yeah, I mean, they gave me a translator. I was able to communicate through him and play the game. It was an incredible experience. The fans were unreal, absolutely electric, and it was an experience that if anybody ever has interest going overseas, I highly recommend it. It is. I mean, you kind of saw like Xavier Scruggs, I think was on MLB Network or whatever it is, or
Yep.
ESPN,
Yep.
and he was going over there to like see his old team and baseball, Major League Baseball in Korea and everything. Like you saw those games, like those fans. I mean, they're unreal.
Yeah.
It, in America, like it's all about, I grew up in California, so we went to a lot of Anaheim games. I was a San Diego kid, grew up, you know, Padres, Clippers, Chargers.
Mhm.
But when my parents moved up to Orange County, I ended up going to a lot of Anaheim games. And with Anaheim games, it's like, okay, show up by the third, leave by the seventh, so that way you can beat all the traffic.
Right.
And so, like, being over in Korea and Japan and those places, those people don't leave. They're there from pitch one to the last pitch of the
Yep.
game.
I believe
They're
it. Yeah.
in on every single pitch. Like the the electricity in that stadium is unlike anything I've ever seen. And yeah, it was an incredible experience.
I believe it because it just feels so different here. Because, like you said, yeah, fans. I don't know what it is. It's supposed to be America's pastime, but it feels like these other countries have passed us over fan wise. Honestly,
Yeah,
for me as a fan standpoint, because I don't see the fan, even though, granted, obviously, a part because owners have something to do with it and the product they put on the field, which is understandable. Hence, Oakland, obviously. Hence, us. Unfortunately, we've had a good team, but we can never get the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm meaning, obviously, we can't, because of the stadium, we can't get the fans out here. But regardless, I know that counts. But in those countries, they don't care. They just want to go see ball. And I'm sure
exactly.
you're, and I'm sure you're seeing that too in Mexico. I'm sure your games have been sold out pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, they've been. It's the same thing down here. Everybody's just so passionate about their teams, and like, I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of alcohol is involved, but they love their sports, and it's. I mean, I think that's probably kind of there's just too much. I think with America, there's just too much stuff going on there to like really be so into sports. I mean, like, you don't get me wrong, you have your super fans, you have your people who are passionate about the teams, but not everybody's like that because
Yeah.
there's just too much going on, or tickets are too expensive, like different things like that. Nobody wants to sit way up in the nosebleeds and see the little ants moving around on the field. Like it's I don't know, but I mean, I hope someday it gets better in America, and to where it becomes this kind of atmosphere, like in Mexico, like in Japan, like in Korea. I hope it honestly gets like that someday.
Now, I gotta ask you this. Obviously, you weren't never a part of this franchise, and thank God you weren't. I feel bad for the people that are. Um, I think you know where I'm going with this. You've heard this too, with the Oakland A's saga. I feel bad for. They've lost 3 teams in the last 4 years to Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel sorry. Well, 2 of them at least. Sorry, 2 of them. The other one moved down south to San Fran. But other than that, I mean, I feel bad for that fan base. Now, obviously, you didn't play for them, thank God. But how crushing do you think it would be for a to to know that that owner doesn't really give a hoot, not only about you guys, but the fan base will just take up and leave, and the owners don't even care, nor does the commissioner.
Well, I mean, it happened to the Chargers. The Chargers left San Diego and went to LA. So I mean, like now San Diego doesn't have a team anymore. It's like I kind of know how that feels because I like the Chargers are my team, and I'm always rooting for them. And
Same,
it's like,
regardless.
yeah, I mean, like I kind of understand like where Oakland's coming from. It's like who do we root for now? It's like it sucks. It's sad because I know that when we always came into town to play against Oakland, it was we didn't stay in Oakland. We stayed in San Fran. I think we stayed in like San Fran,
Yeah,
and then would just bus over or take the BART down to the stadium, and that was it. Um, from a business standpoint, I mean, there are AAA teams in Vegas. It's in what do you call it? What is it, the Red Rock or whatever it is,
yeah, I
hotel
think so. Yeah,
right
yeah,
next to the Knights Stadium or Knights practice facility. And I think they're planning on putting the major league team about 3 exits down from the minor league stadium. So from a business standpoint, I mean, if you're ever making transactions and sending guys up, calling guys up and sending guys down, it'll be an easy transition of just hop in your car and drive up to the
right.
stadium.
Yeah,
Uh, but no, from a fan standpoint, I think it sucks. It's tough because you got so many people who were passionate about the A's, probably still are, love baseball just in general, would want to take their kids to a game. Now they got to try and find what is it, the Sacramento River Cats or something like that,
yep, that's it. Yep.
or go to a San Francisco game, which if they're Oakland fans, it's their rival. So it's like, what do
Yeah,
we do?
exactly. Right.
Pick your poison. So it's tough and it's sad what's happening, but I mean, the city I almost feel like it's on a steady decline. So it's just tough to really kind of hold teams there.
But if you're smart, though, with the other, I don't get why the other owners approved it. If you're smart enough, I know they were already talking about expansion, and the cities that are already they're thinking about expanding. Why not just? I don't understand. I know it's the owner, but and he got inherited by it. But instead of giving up on a city, just sell the freaking team and expand like you were originally going to talk about to Las Vegas, which obviously is going to happen, because of
Yeah,
Oakland, unfortunately. But there was talks that there was going to expand a team there, and then I think one other I think was Nashville, which I could see that too.
that could happen.
So, but it's just ridiculous. Like, if you're the owners, other owners, and the commissioner, and you were talking about expansion anyway, instead of moving a team, wouldn't it just make sense to expand? That's what you were talking about anyway, right?
True, you could do that.
There's even talk about moving a team back to Montreal. I don't
Oh,
know how
really?
that would work, but
I don't know either. I don't know who would want to go back to Montreal. No offense to all the Canadians, but I just they haven't had a team in what 20 plus years.
yeah, since Washington gave up on them, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, no offense to them, but yeah, they only go out to Blue Jays games.
yeah,
That's what they really care about.
yeah. And that fan base is gnarly.
Yeah, yeah, they're mainly hockey. So, I mean, I can't see them going back to Montreal, even though that's been in the talks. I can't because the fan base gave up on them like years ago. Hence why they moved to Washington. So, I mean, I don't know. This is crazy talk. This is all crazy. It's hard to. I mean, I feel bad again for the fan bases, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, um, so now I got to ask you if you weren't playing if you weren't playing today, what would you think you'd be doing today? Do you think you'd be coaching? Do you think you'd be in the game as announcing wise? What do you think you'd be doing today if you weren't pitching?
I think I'd probably be on the coaching aspect of it. I ended up kind of not well, sort of interviewing for a job this past off season, and it was more on the player development side, and it was with the Diamondbacks, and I really enjoyed it and had a great interview. Um, Everything went really well, and I became very enthusiastic towards just learning all the the matrix that I didn't already know, and just educating myself on everything. So it was one of those things. Just wanted to kind of see where I kind of enjoy it, if I would enjoy it, and I absolutely did.